Welcome to the Caregiver Relief Podcast. I'm Diane Carbo, a registered nurse and your host, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. If you're feeling overwhelmed, searching for hope, or looking for new ways to support your loved one with dementia, you are in the right place. This episode is sponsored by myvitalvault.net, your all-in-one life organizer for aging adults and caregivers. It's designed to help you securely store your essential legal, medical, and emergency information in one easy-to-access place. Because when a crisis hits, being prepared can make all the difference. Join our Caregiver Relief community, a warm, welcoming space where you can connect with other caregivers, ask questions, share stories, and find support from people who truly understand. Visit community.caregiverrelief.com to join now, because caregiving is one of the hardest and most meaningful things you'll ever do, and no one should have to do it alone. And if this episode speaks to you, please take a moment to like, share, or comment. Every click helps us reach more caregivers who need encouragement, resources, and hope. Today's episode is one that will uplift your heart and expand your perspective. I'm joined with the incredible Janet Hugler, a woman whose personal caregiving journey led her to a powerful mission. Janet is a certified senior advisor, a certified dementia practitioner, and this is the one that I love the most, certified Montessori dementia care professional, and the owner of Right at Home of Somerset and Hunterdon counties in New Jersey. She brings not only professional expertise, but also a deep compassion and lived experience to the conversation. In this episode, we're diving into two inspiring topics: the healing power of therapy dogs and the transformative impact of the Montessori method in dementia care. What makes Janet's story so compelling is how personal it is. Her journey into caregiving began unexpectedly when her mother-in-law, who was living with multiple sclerosis, was suddenly left without a caregiver. That moment changed everything and led Janet to take a bold step, purchasing a Right at Home franchise in 2007 to provide the kind of care her family needed. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, take a deep breath, and settle in. You don't want to miss what Janet has to share here. Her story is a powerful reminder that out of personal challenges comes meaningful solutions, and that there are always new ways to bring joy, purpose, and peace to the caregiving journey. Janet, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your story with my listeners. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Diane, for inviting me to be on your podcast. I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm excited. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, Janet, and explain a little more what led you to the world of caregiving and elder care?
So if I want to go back to, I'll start with the beginning of that type thing. When I was 12, my mother was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. So she needed help from then on. She did live another 25 years, but she did need some help with activities of daily living from that. And then when I was married in 1989, my mother-in-law had MS. Her primary caregiver was her husband, Bill, and he passed away unexpectedly. And then the caregivers that had lined up, family caregivers for Joanne, didn't last long. Like I say, one lasted less than 24 hours and one lasted a little bit more than 24 hours. And Carl, being the oldest of four, it was a family discussion among the kids what to do. And we could not find reliable home care for her. She was at home. We actually ended up having her youngest and his wife move in with her and take care of her until her end of life. And we realized at that time that there was a great need for home care. And we had the opportunity with the Right at Home franchise that covered Somerset and Hunterdon counties in New Jersey to purchase that. My husband and I decided to buy that, and then I ran it for probably about 13 years, obviously with help in the office, but then my husband joined about 5 years ago.
The caregiving story about your in-laws is incredibly powerful. And it seems like what you went through, it still influences your work today. So now you run right at home it's been what, 2 decades?
Yeah, almost 2 decades, 18 years.
Almost 2 decades. Wow. So what has been the most rewarding part of this journey for you?
I think that in terms of that, when you're helping families, it can be at the beginning of a care journey. And then sometimes we'll call them, they won't need any help. If they come out of rehab after a broken hip,
Yeah.
and then we get them back to being totally independent again. We've had people who I call hospice graduates. They'll be on hospice, and you as a nurse will understand this. Then they'll get well enough to be off hospice. They do come back to us in the long run for more help. But we had one woman who she was in a facility in assisted living, and we helped her. She had a hip replacement. We gave her some more help. She ended up being not using our services for 2 or 3 years and then coming back toward her end of life. And I think that's rewarding. And it's also when we help families and relieve them. We have one client who said we let her be a daughter again and her kids be grandchildren again instead of caregivers.
I love that. And having repeat customers come back is a testament to what you're doing and what care you're providing, because most people, most companies, I can say, don't have the track record to have people want to come back because of some of the issues with their staff. And I think that's a big testament to how you run your office.
Thanks.
So I am very excited about this topic because I had 4 greyhounds, and you provide therapy dogs in dementia care. So I'd like to talk about your certified therapy dog and what inspired you to incorporate pet therapy into your caregiving services.
Okay, so we've had dogs since right before we were married. I wasn't a dog person. My husband is a dog person. I'm the cat person. And
Okay.
in sets of 2. And then probably, I don't know, maybe the third set in, I'll say, we had Amy, and Maggie actually passed away from cancer. Amy was a little lost. We'll put it that way.
Sure.
And since one of them was always typically bonded to me, so she was bonded to me and she needed a purpose. And the only way that she could come with me around was if I turned her into something to do with visits to facilities.
Yes.
And I looked into it, and she became a bright and beautiful therapy dog. So she was grandfathered into the basic 1 and 2 classes because she was 12 and a half years.
Yeah.
And then she took the pet therapy class, and then we passed with bright and beautiful therapy dogs.
I love that. Had 4 greyhounds, and when I got into marketing and sales and care management with nursing, I wanted to continue to stay in nursing in some way. So I would do agency nursing. And on the weekends I didn't work, I had out of the 4 greyhounds, Kisses, my oldest greyhound, was the most sociable, energetic, happy girl that would tolerate anything. Kids didn't bother her. Equipment didn't bother her. The earth could be falling off around her, and she was just mellow. And I just love the interaction. So how do your clients typically respond to visits from the therapy dog?
Actually, you would kind of laugh at this, Diane. My dogs don't usually go to our clients. They go to facilities.
Yeah, okay.
But the residents love them. There was
Yeah.
a little bit of a calendar mix up internally at the assisted living we went to last Friday. And they were on the calendar, the girls were, but not on another. And people were just thought we weren't coming. And so we did some individual rooms because they weren't downstairs, and they were thrilled to death. And the one, she was on the phone with, I think, her nephew, and she kept calling calling the dogs, my girls are here, my dogs are here. I have to. So funny. So they all love them.
Yes.
It's a break in the routine. It's
Yes.
if they had pets before and they couldn't bring them with them here.
Yes.
And we always make sure it's okay because they're big dogs. And these are places that I've been before. So some people would prefer smaller, and then I'll just tell the facility to contact Bright and Beautiful Therapy Dogs to get smaller dogs to come.
Yes. I actually was in a facility where they brought in a therapy pony.
Yes.
That was amazing. It's so funny, but people respond differently. And those that love animals or love pets definitely benefit from it. Have you seen any especially memorable reactions?
Sometimes in the memory unit, a lot of times people as a nurse, aren't speaking as much.
Yes.
and we'll come in, and it's usually the visits that we do are usually monthly in facilities. And
Okay.
we'll get back to the memory care. And one woman who hadn't spoken in a couple weeks started to talk. She'll talk to the girls.
Oh,
So, and
isn't that
then they're
amazing?
more amazed about that. Or someone who doesn't really speak, just mumbles yes or no, will start talking about their own pets that they had, which is
Yes.
awesome, right? Because you
Well,
want
I
that.
love those moments because those moments are times when they're connecting with their past and connecting in the real world now. And I just think that's amazing. I love to see that.
And then
Especially with the Alzheimer's or dementia patients, because it's so therapeutic for them. I know many facilities have cats that they keep on the units. And the cats, of course, and always enjoyed the one memory care unit I went to in Philadelphia, outside of Philadelphia. It was in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. They had kitty cats, and on the nurse's drug cart when we were passing meds was a light, laser light thing to play with the kitties. And I was always bad because I would tease the kitties to play while I was passing meds. And it was just entertainment for the patients. And they really do enjoy that.
oh, they do. We have one family, their mother did pass, and they're using the pictures of her with the dogs in her memorial service.
Oh, that's so.
They just told me that Friday. That brought tears to my eyes.
Oh, that would me too. That would bring tears to my eyes too. So, can you explain to our listeners what is the training process different for a therapy dog versus a typical pet?
It depends on, you need a well-behaved dog. So a lot of times most people will get them to sit, stay, lay down, all of those basics, like the canine good citizen test.
Okay.
But they add in equipment and loud noises, right?
Yes.
That's part of the training, right?
Yes.
And they'll have the hospital, they'll try and do something that simulates a hospital bed, the IV poles, because they don't want the dogs noticing a catheter, an IV, or anything when you go into a hospital room. Then they'll put the wheelchair and the crutches out. I'm lucky because we have access to all that equipment. So I just brought it into my kitchen for my dogs so that they were walking in and around it.
Oh, what a cool thing to do. That's smart.
And I think the other thing that they do is they want them to have a good stay and wait, so that you'll put the dog in a stay or a wait, whatever you want to call it. And then you walk away from the dog, come back to them, walk away again, and then call the dog. And you're probably at least 30 feet away when you are away from them so that they stay there and don't follow you. That's the idea behind it, just in case you get separated. But they look at it like if you take dogs to a high school, the changing of classes. If you're in the hallway when that happens, the dogs can't be reactive or reactive to other dogs. They test that too.
Yeah.
Yep, they have that as part of it. And a good leave it so that they don't pick up things from the floor. Anybody else, they can't kiss when they're in there, because in case anybody has a lotion that's medicated.
I can see them just licking the Ativan gel off somebody's arm. Or oh, and then you have a very drowsy dog.
Not good. And then you can't treat them while you're in there.
Exactly. So now you have a very specialized approach to dementia care, and I really find this fascinating. And I wanted to explain the Montessori approach. You're also a certified dementia practitioner, and you use the Montessori approach in your method in your approach. Can you tell my listeners that are unfamiliar with that, what is Montessori-based dementia care?
It's more person-based, so that when you're coming up and you look at it like as a nurse with a plan of care. So you want this individualized for what someone can do. So you have to really evaluate where they are on their dementia journey. Part of it is helping the family understand. So that, for instance, when I was doing one, I call them meet and greets when we're discussing our services with a family. And, so the potential client, needed to have an activity. And so we were folding towels. And then I would just take the basket, go in the other room, unfold them, and bring them back. And that family, but the potential client, was totally fine with refolding towels. So you're looking for something that they will do, that you can help them do to foster some independence too. Because it doesn't really matter if they're not bothered by refolding the towels, we shouldn't be either. If they're not bothered by matching pictures in the morning and the same things at night, we shouldn't be bothered either. But you
Yes.
find a task that they can do that they used to enjoy. It might not be the 1,000-piece puzzle. It might have to be a 20-piece one, but you have to
Yes.
do it that way. And to try and figure out what they used to do. So in the evenings, a lot of times people get agitated and they'll call it sundowning, which is not necessarily what it is, but that's just an expression that's used in dementia care. Find an activity that they can do. One of the activities is preparing dinner. So if you're not in a facility and you're in a home, there's nothing wrong with having them chop vegetables using a safe knife
Exactly.
at you and to put things in a crock pot. They're
Yeah.
doing something that's helpful. And yes, you do have to plan ahead and figure out what to do, but you come up with a project so that they have something to do when you're trying to get other things accomplished. You approach people, you don't approach them from behind. You know all this. I do. Your listeners probably know this because they've been listening to you for a while too. We don't approach people from behind. We approach them from the front. We get down to their level. We don't throw the lights on in the morning. If that type of thing, you walk in more quietly. You don't want to startle people. It's those approaches, but you really have to look at it as individualized. So it might be if you're in a memory care unit and they want to do coloring, well, you might have to have different coloring books for the people at different stages. And sometimes you might have to sit next to somebody and somebody else can do the project more independently. So it takes thinking about things like that.
When you were talking about the puzzles, I recently did a podcast on a company called Timeless Presence. And what it is, they've created products for success in activities for those in the middle to the later stages of dementia. And when you were talking about puzzles, I wanted to say, yes, they have everything so that they're all squared off and you can't have the unsuccessful. They'll always have success. And I thought that was a really cool approach because you don't want your loved one with dementia to get upset or frustrated. And family members don't understand there is what they call rehabilitation and habilitation. Rehabilitation means you can recover and improve over time, your abilities. We lose that with dementia, and all you have is habilitation, which is just managing and trying to maintain the same base level. Now, everybody with dementia eventually is going to decline, but it's really important. I know families get upset. I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of little old ladies of all different cultures that their families get upset because all they do is want to clean and they want to wipe. And I giggled. I was working at a senior care facility, a behavioral health unit. And this little lady was so sweet. She was a little Asian lady, and all she wanted, she just wiping down every counter. She was cleaning the place spotless. And the family was really upset. And it was keeping her happy.
Yes.
And it just gives them a sense of well-being. And it doesn't matter what the activity is. It's something that they're used to. I've been into many facilities where men want to have tools and they're used to pounding with hammers and stuff. You need to get tools that are a lot of the children, plastic tools are big enough. They're just plastic and safer to use. But during COVID, I was helping a woman. I helped her. She's going blind and her husband had dementia and he was starting into the middle stages. He had lost his ability to communicate. And they were an older couple that had only been married for 2 years. It's just a sweet love story in their late 70s. And he was from England and he had the most expressive face, but he couldn't communicate. And she, even with her blindness, could still see. And she cooked and baked every day. And she'd make him, she would in some way. And it was so good. And when she was busy with things, she'd give him a broom. And he did well. Sure, you had to follow him around and stuff to make sure that he wasn't throwing dirt under the rug or whatever, but made him useful. And it really worked for them because she worked at keeping him busy and entertained. And I think that's Why? Because he couldn't communicate verbally, and his facial expressions showed everything. He was like a Jim Carrey, a young Jim Carrey, or an older Jim Carrey, with his face the way it was. And it was just wonderful because they communicated even though he lost his ability, and she gave him his dignity every single day, which I just thought was amazing.
No, it's that they need a purpose, right? We need to figure
Yes.
that's good for them. And they also feel like the energy in the room. So if you're upset, before you walk into somebody's room or to see them, you really have to let go of all of that negative energy and
Yes.
or the positive so that you don't set anyone off the wrong way. You have to
Exactly.
it's smiling. But it can't be a fake smile. And then
Yes.
find things. And that's why I say we have to help the families too, because it
Yes.
them more than it does.
Well, families don't understand that a person with dementia is truly living in the moment. They're mindfully living because they can't focus or have the inability to look to the future, and they're losing their past. So they may have lost, like with my client's husband, they may have lost their ability to communicate. So what do they have? They have only you or the surroundings to pick up on the tension or the vibes in the room, if you will. I tell people you have to make sure that you are approaching them in a soft, gentle way with a positive approach. Because if you're anxious or you're upset or you're angry at them, it's going to pick up, they're going to pick up on that. And it's not going to be good for you. It's going to be very ugly because they get anxious too. And then you have to calm them down.
And that's hard to do.
It really is. So it's better to prevent. So, how does the Montessori method differ from more traditional care models for dementia?
I just think that it's more person centered of looking at something as this is the group activity that everyone's going to do. The Montessori method, just like with children,
Yes.
picking their education based on their interests and their abilities instead of one size fits all. That's how we look at it. And we're fortunate because obviously we're doing the one-on-one care,
Yeah.
able to do more of that. It's more difficult in a facility if you have a memory, a memory unit, 20 people in it.
I have all my clients create for their dementia family member, create a person-centered care profile. I have two different ones. One is for in the home, like when you have a righted home worker come into your home, they have these forms that will do everything from what their abilities are. And I'm sure you have your own system for that. But what I've done is what do they like to eat? What are their products? What underarm deodorant do they use? What products do they use to brush their teeth? And can they still do that, or do you have to do it? And then I always ask them to do one for the when they go into the hospital, because I don't know, I'm coming across clients that are in the emergency room for days at a time anymore, the waits, and it's really frustrating. So I have them create a one page, and I know you've seen these before. They're in assisted living facilities, but I want them to know one of the things, what I want you to know about me is, and it may be their nickname or something that they like to talk about so that people can approach them and feel familiar to them, even though they're a stranger. And I think that's really important that families focus on, and it also makes the healthcare provider or the professional see the person as an individual and not a diagnosis. And I think that's really important.
No, that is. It's a good idea to make sure that the hospital personnel know. Fortunately, if any one of our clients is doing that, they have their caregiver with them. So that's,
Yes.
but families don't always have that benefit of being able to stay.
Yes.
At So hopefully the hospital personnel are reading that and helping with that so that they don't have an issue with that particular client who has dementia, where they have to bring in some either chemical or physical restraints. We don't want that.
No, and you definitely don't want a chemical restraint with dementia if you don't have to, because Lewy body dementia, just for the listeners out there, is the most misdiagnosed of all the dementias, and it's the second most common. It has many psychiatric symptoms, signs and symptoms, so it's often misconstrued or misdiagnosed, not as Lewy body dementia, but as a mental health issue. And when you're given a medication, such as to calm down because they're stressed or anxious or frightened, it can have what they call a paradoxical or opposite effect. And somebody with Lewy body will get more agitated and more aggressive. And so it's really important that people really try, the family members try everything they can to make the healthcare professionals aware that if they haven't gotten a definitive diagnosis, that you really want to avoid the chemical restraints as much as possible. It's my thoughts.
That's the best thing. So you aware of where they are in their journey so that they understand. And hopefully, I realize that when you're in an emergency room, there are emergencies going on and it's crazy and hectic. So try and get it as calm as possible for anyone who's in there. And a lot of times the professionals don't have that luxury, right? Because they have to take care of things. So that's why the best thing is to have somebody who knows, if possible.
Exactly. And that's why organizations like Right at Home are providing a service where it allows continuity of care and follow-up. And that's really important. And there's always somebody there, if the family member can't be there, to advocate for the patient. And that's the most important thing. Or to communicate to the family that there's some things going on that they need to get involved in because there's some misunderstanding with the behaviors or whatever. Because it does happen. Lord knows, I know it does happen.
Oh, it does. That will happen in a hospital because, of course, there's just like I was talking about with the dogs and the training about that's going to set people off too, because it's a difference in what they're used to and chaotic. It's loud and chaotic.
Yes, a lot. And the noise, it is frightening to many of them. So, Janet, what are some simple ways that family caregivers can bring Montessori principles into the home, even without formal training?
They can think about that person's typical day before they either retired or they had a diagnosis of dementia. What were they interested in? So that you can maybe take those things, like you were talking about a puzzle that's all squared so you're not going to fail at it. What's that person like to do? Let's say somebody really liked to sew. Maybe they can't sew now, but match some things, or say, okay, here's like a pattern for a dress, Mom. Which of these materials do you think might be a good one to go with it? And what could we put as trim? Ask their opinion, ask them to do that. Matching squares, if they ever made quilts, putting them together, things like that. And even if you've heard the story 2,000 times, pull out the photo album and ask them to explain things.
Exactly.
Right. Tell me about these pictures. What's going on here? Try never to use the word remember. That we try and take that out of the vocabulary, right? We don't want to say that. And if they're asking to go home, you can ask them to tell you about that home. Tell me what your best memory is in that home. You could ask that way. You can just say, tell me about a favorite room in that home. And then you're redirected them in a way that they're going to tell you a story, and they're not going to be trying to look to escape that room, that house, that type of a thing. Those are things you can do.
Those are little, and families have to realize that don't offer more than two things. Don't say, do you want this, or this? It doesn't work. You have to limit your choices. And sometimes you have to say, is this okay? And just give it to them. Or I made you a drink and drink it. There gets to a point where they're not able to connect so many sentences. And families also get upset when they're slow to respond. And they have to understand that when you're doing something with a person with dementia, they have slowed responses. Their connections aren't always connecting immediately. And it may take a while for them to think, to understand what you're saying. Always give them time to respond as well, which I think is really important. And don't give up. Keep trying anything and everything that they used to do. I have a story. I did a podcast the other day on music and memory. And one of the things that surprised many of my clients is I had a gentleman who had been institutionalized his whole entire life. Very sad story. But when he was young, they were very poor, and his mom would take him into the opera, sneak him into the opera. And here's this guy who's big and burly and was a boxer, had dementia. And when the only thing that would calm him down was opera music.
Oh, wow.
And so I tell people, don't judge a book by their cover, because you just don't know. How did they know? Because he would say words like Italian words, and one of the nurses picked up on it, and they started playing opera music, and he was so happy. It's really sometimes investigating what they did when they were younger, much younger, because that's the memories that they have, and you just have to work at it a little more. So,
Right. Music is my favorite trick for getting people in the shower.
oh, good job. That's a good tip, listeners. Pay attention.
So that make the shower, the bathroom inviting, right? You want to make it warm. You want to make it cozy. You have the on, you make it smell nice. And sometimes if people like to dance too, you can dance into the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
That is a trick. And I also have, usually when their appetite is decreasing, right? A whole plate of food, you know this, Diane, is overwhelming. But someone will eat a whole sandwich if you present it at quarters.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then there's nothing wrong with, here's your meal for dinner, and you're just breaking it up into smaller pieces. You don't have to have the green beans mixed with the protein, mixed with the salad on the plate. You can do half the green beans, let them finish that, give them the next thing in a smaller piece.
Yeah.
Always sit down with people when you want them to eat and drink. And
exactly.
They're not hungry. If you sit down and you start eating your sandwich, they're going to sit next to you and start eating.
People don't understand that a lot of seniors lose weight because they're eating alone. And there's more interaction and better appetites when other people around them are eating. So if you just sit and take your time, one of my favorite things to do was, they call them feeders, where you have to sit and feed patients. And that I loved being able to sit and talk with some of these patients. Some of them would respond, some of them wouldn't, but they always ate better when I'd sing to them or tell them a story, or if they had I knew about their life or something, I'd talk about their family. Over time, you get to know their history, and they just eat better. They drink and do everything better if they're interacting with somebody else a lot of times.
Always. Yep.
Yeah.
Rex.
I've been around a long time. So, Janet, if you could give one piece of advice to a family caregiver who's feeling overwhelmed right now, what would it be?
Don't be so tough on yourself. Do not feel guilty. You're doing the best that you possibly can.
Yes.
And there's help out there. It might take you a little bit of research to do it on your own if you can't hire outside help. The Alzheimer's Association has help out there, tips and tricks. And so it's out there, and you might need to reach out and talk to somebody. Like with us, we don't always end up with the families as clients, but we've given them solutions to their problems.
Yes, exactly. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk and share. I love sharing about the therapy dogs, and I love the Montessori approach. And I hope more clients and listeners out there will look for that approach in their future care needs, because it's really important. And how do they contact you in your area for your right at home business?
The office number is 908-281-7961. And the website is www.rightatHome.net/west-central-new-Jersey. It's a
horrible. Put that link on the end of the page.
A horrible website name, I know that. So just call the office.
Yeah, just call the office. Okay. To my family caregivers out there, you are the most important part of the family caregiving equation. Without you, it all falls apart. So please learn to practice self-care. Be gentle with yourself because you are worth it.